Coming up on the Cowboys Report, what about a DeMarcus Lawrence trade? I still think a deal gets done, but it makes some sense to at least have the conversation. In actual good news, Travis Frederick once again is in line to return to the Cowboys for the offseason. Some very good news for that offense and offensive line. And then also, Allen Hurns. Could a pay cut happen? I think it makes a lot of sense because you can't pay your number 4 receiver over $6 million. Those rumors and more coming up on the Cowboys Report. Hello friends, welcome into the Cowboys Report presented by the My TV Choice app. Get rid of commercials during March Madness today by downloading the app at mytvchoice.com. I'm your host Tom Downey. Let's dive into some Cowboys rumors, so some more updates here on the Robert Quinn trade. I'm still going to give it 2 stars, even though I do think Quinn ends up on the Cowboys in some fashion this offseason. Now the Cowboys and Dolphins have had trade talks. Now the Saints are actually going to meet with Robert Quinn. It had been reported last week that a meeting was going to take place, and then it never actually happened. The Miami Herald reports that the Cowboys remain Quinn's likeliest destination, while in the meanwhile, GM Chris Greer is saying that, the Dolphins could keep Quinn if that happens, and that other unnamed teams have called as well, which all makes me think that the Cowboys remain the only serious bidder in a Robert Quinn trade discussion, which is maybe why he hasn't been traded yet. And the Dolphins trying to up the price as best they can, such the Cowboys figured out they were the only ones bidding for Robert Quinn. So here's my proposed trade to acquire Quinn from the Dolphins. I'll give them a 2020 5th-round pick, and I'll make it a conditional pick based on the sacks or the end result for the Cowboys overall in the season. It can go up to a 4th-round selection. I think that's pretty fair for Quinn. He's a little bit older. He's not the same prime guy he was with the LA Rams, and he was an absolute stud his first couple years in the NFL. And then beyond that, you're going to get 5 to 6 sacks. That is valuable, and it's more than I think you'd get out of a 5th-round pick. I like force a little bit more, but I think a 5th-round pick in the end is pretty fair for Robert Quinn. Now, what would you give up in a trade for Quinn? Let me know in the comment section again. If and when this deal happens, I think it's going to be for a mid to mid-ish late round pick in the 2020 draft. Remember, Miami seems to be focused on acquiring 2020 draft picks. I think that's when they want to get their quarterback. We'll stick with some trade talks here. It's been mentioned plenty on social media, in the comments and whatnot, and on Twitter. How about a DeMarcus Lawrence trade? I'll give this one just the 1 star, but I do think it's reasonable to have this discussion. Now, Jerry Jones continues to say he thinks a deal gets done, and I think a deal is going to get done as well. But the longer it takes, with no surgery yet for DeMarcus Lawrence, you need to at least consider it. Now, I am mostly against it because trading Tank doesn't help you in a win-now mode for 2019. You're trying to win games. No matter what you get back for DeMarcus Lawrence, it's not going to make you better in 2019. That's only going to hurt you. Yeah, you could get a 1st-round pick back in theory, but that 1st-round pick impact is not going to become DeMarcus Lawrence in year 1, let alone at some point down the road. So from that perspective, I think it is you keep DeMarcus Lawrence. Now, where I think it does become more feasible is if we get to close to the draft. If we're 2 weeks away from the draft and there's no DeMarcus Lawrence extension, or it's not going to get done, or it's not going to come close, and I don't think they're that far off right now, then I consider it more strongly, because there are 3 outcomes here. You just pay Tank. It's the simplest one. That's the one I'm in favor for. Or you trade Tank before the draft and get a better asset now. The worst possible outcome here is the Cowboys keep Tank, don't extend him, he gets his surgery late, he holds out for a good portion of the year, and he doesn't make a big impact for you in 2020. And then you get a 3rd-round comp pick the next season. Less compensation than we would have gotten if you traded him now. So that's what I don't want to have happen. So I at least consider it. But again, for me, I do think the deal gets done, and I think it looks a little bit like this. 5 years, $140 million, $64.5 in terms of practical guaranteed money, and 11% of the cap. That $104 million, that's about right for DeMarcus Lawrence. It's a $20 million deal. That's what it's worth. That's what he's worth. And by the way, that it hasn't been leaked about what Tank actually wants versus what the Cowboys are offering means the 2 sides, I think, are not that far apart. Now, should the Cowboys trade DeMarcus Lawrence? Type Y for yes, type N for no. I'm still typing in N for no right now. Check in with me in 2-3 weeks, somewhere in that range. closer to the draft, we'll see where things sit. But in the end, I don't think it makes sense for the Cowboys to move DeMarcus Lawrence right now. Now, as we mentioned on our last show, we kind of need a new 0 stars. It was the number of fights that Odell Beckham won against the net, but Odell Beckham is no longer on the Giants. Doesn't really make sense to make fun of him. So we put it in the comments section, put it on our community tab as well for the channel. Let's take a look at some potential ideas you guys had. Noah Thompson said 0 stars, the number of times Zeke should have been suspended. Omar Hernandez says it's the number of playoff games Carson Wentz has played in. That was a very popular one, by the way. Anything related to Carson Wentz and the Eagles. Renegade says it's Zeke starving, so the exact opposite of feed Zeke. I kind of like the synergy there. Get us some more of these 0 stars ideas here for the Cowboys. Jordan Thomas, we can't use this one. We just can't use it. The number of Fs given by David Irving. Not exactly inaccurate, but I'm going to say no, though I did get a chuckle out of it. There were a lot of David Irving weed ones, by the way. John Mathis says that Tom Downey is a ladies' man. Ain't happening. I am getting married, so by definition, you're right. It's 0 stars. Our esteemed president, Donald J. Trump, says it's the IQ of Eagles fans. There were a lot of Eagles fans won overall. Caleb Costello says it's the number of games Jason Garrett went without clapping. Also very accurate. And then Food Review says the chances of the Giants winning the NFC East. There was also a similar one there with the Washington Redskins. Let me know in the comments which ones you guys like the most. And then, by the way, go subscribe to us, youtube.com/Dallas Cowboys Report. I'll put it up in a poll later this week, and we'll decide on the winner that way. All right. Next up on the Cowboys rumors, how about Travis Frederick's return? I'm going to give this 3 stars again. It's what we've said for quite some time now. I think you're going to see Frederick back. The report from The Athletic is that Frederick will be good to go for off-season workouts, which is what Frederick has said himself, that he thinks he's going to be good to go. By the way, those start on April 15th. And in terms of the good news for Frederick, this is what the Cowboys need. They need Frederick out there. Yeah, Joe Looney did a serviceable job, a good job even, as the replacement center. But Travis Frederick is one of the, if not the outright best centers in the NFL. You get him back, that's a big boost to your offense. Now, I'll keep it at 3 stars because it is still a medical thing, and there's always the chance for a setback, but I feel very confident that you're going to see Frederick back on the field for off-season workouts. Again, OTAs start on April 15th. I think the Cowboys are going to be in good shape. And that's your starting 5 right there. Tyron Smith, Connor Williams, Travis Frederick, Zach Martin, and Lael Collins. Now, speaking of the offensive line, let's talk about Connor Williams. Is he adding strength this offseason? Well, 4 stars on this one. I'd be panicking if he wasn't. And his agent says he's added 10 pounds of muscle. Now, it is the agent saying it, so, you can throw the asterisks on it, but he's definitely adding some type of strength. Now, he was listed at 310 by the Cowboys, but he was 296 at the NFL Combine. We kind of saw a similar discrepancy in, say, Lael Collins as well. But adding strength is the number 1 go for Sewell as he continues to be the Cowboys' left guard entering this this training camp workout period there. Look, I know he kind of had some injury problems. I thought he was much better down the stretch. So if he adds more strength, he's going to be in very good shape for the Cowboys. And by the way, the return of Travis Frederick, probably more important than the strength for Connor Williams. That's a huge boost there for the Dallas Cowboys on the interior of that offensive line. To get Frederick back and have Connor Williams bulk up, that's a really good 1-2 punch there in the end for the Cowboys. And hopefully, Lael Collins shows some growth at right tackle as well. Folks, today's show is brought to you by the My TV Choice app. If you're tired of commercials during March Madness, go download the app, mytvchoice.com. It's on iOS and it's on Android. And oh, by the way, you can have some great chat sports content during the commercials as well. So sit down, watch the games during those boring commercial breaks. I'll be on screen for you. It's the best option out there. That's My TV Choice. So go download the app today at mytvchoice.com. Move along here with some more Cowboys rumors and maybe a couple news items as well as relates to Connor Williams. But what about fewer snaps for Jason Witten? I'll give this one 3 stars. I do think you're not going to see Witten play the 60-70 he played last year. There's no way that he'd be able to do it. Now, is Witten going to only play 25 snaps? Well, maybe not. Now, that's the plan. That's the reported plan for the Cowboys and for Witten. But here's the thing. If it's close in a game, and Witten comes in, he's at 25, are they not going to put him in? I think in the end, we know how Garrett feels about Witten, and Garrett does dictate a lot of the offense. I think you'll see plenty of Jason Witten there. Now, yes, he's been away from the NFL, but in terms of the over-under, 25 snaps per game for Jason Witten. Are you taking the over or the under? Type O for over, U for under. I'm betting the over. And by the way, if you pay Jason Witten a couple $1 million to come in and play like a third of the snaps, I actually don't think it's very good usage of your capital there. So I think it'll look more like 35 snaps for Jason Witten. So I'm going to pound the over there. Speaking of money, how about Allen Hurns taking a pay cut? I'll give this one 3 stars as well. I think it makes a lot of sense because here's my mindset. I've said it before many times. Some of you call me an Allen Hurns hater. It's fine, whatever. It's probably accurate. You cannot pay your number 4 receiver $6.25 million. That puts Allen Hurns in the top 40 among NFL receivers for cap hit this season. There's no way that you can justify paying that to Allen Hurns at the beginning of the season. If you want to keep him for now in case there's an injury and you cut him at camp, okay, I understand that. And in the end, I am down to give him a pay cut. Because look, Hurns is not going to be the 2015 guy for the Cowboys. Not with Amari Cooper, not with Gallup, not with Cobb, not with Tavon Austin. It doesn't make sense to pay a number 4 guy that amount of money. Now, you can save $5 million by cutting him. So if you say, hey, Allen, why don't you come down to like having your cap hit be around 2.5 to 3.5? Now that makes a little bit more sense, and that one I'm actually okay with doing. I just don't want Allen Hurns back on the Cowboys at his current $6+ million cap hit. So what would you guys pay Allen Hurns in 2019? I am open to the 3.5, somewhere in that range. But anything more than that, again, I just don't think it's good roster construction. I like Hurns the player. I like the leadership that he brings. But money is a factor in the NFL. So let me know what you guys think in the comments section. All right, normally we do 6 as of late, but we've got 9 rumors for you guys today. Next up, are the Cowboys looking for running back help? Of course they are. 4 stars on this one. They haven't picked up anybody yet. It's very obvious that the Cowboys need running back help with having, let's see, Zeke Elliott, Jameis Winston's a fullback, Jordan Chunn, and Darius Jackson. That's who they've got out there. There are no other options for the Cowboys right now at the running back spot. Now, you could go out and sign a different back there in the end. I don't think that's what the Cowboys end up going. But they want a more well-rounded backup, which I think makes sense. Because if you want to pay Zeke long-term, you got to cut down on his workload. I don't think his body can withstand another 400-touch season or multiple 400-touch seasons. You got to lessen his workload, and a more well-rounded back makes a lot of sense there for the Cowboys. Today's show brought to you by BetDSI, the internet's #1 sports book. Head over to chatsports.com/bet and use that promo code right there, Cowboys120, for a 120% deposit bonus. If you guys put down $50, they're going to give you $60 for free. If you lost your March Madness pool, if your bracket's already been busted, go make it back on BetDSI. Bet on the individual games with that promo code, Cowboys120. Let's talk draft here just a little bit. Do the Cowboys love Ed Oliver? Oh, 4 stars on this one. Everyone should love Ed Oliver, but loving a player is very different than being able to actually get Ed Oliver, which is kind of what Dane Brugge on 24/7 Sports kind of floated around a little bit. Now, he's a perfect fit for the Cowboys. You slot him in as a 3 technique, and he will dominate as a penetrator. He will become a more consistent David Irving in terms of production. That's how good I think he can actually be. Because he played nose guard for Houston. That's not his spot. He is a 3 technique guy. Put him in that role, he will thrive. Now, the problem is to get Ed Oliver, at minimum, you got to get into the top 15. And that requires teams like the Bills and the Bengals to pass on Ed Oliver. So you have to move way up there into the top 15. Now, there had been some buzz about using Tank to get Ed Oliver. I'm okay with that. Only way I feel comfortable doing it, but not including player comps or player compensation. This is about what the draft cost would be for the Cowboys to get into the top 15. I'll look at the Dolphins here. 2 seconds and a first, and they still might say no. It might be more of 2 seconds, a first, and another player like maybe a Taco Charlton or Charles Harris, but it does give the Dolphins added ammunition to move up potentially in 2020 to get their quarterback. So who says no to that trade, the Cowboys or the Dolphins? It might be a both teams say no scenario. That's a lot of capital to give up if you're the Cowboys. You're basically saying this draft, all about Ed Oliver. Next year's draft, all about Ed Oliver. It's a lot of capital to give up. And for Miami, you get zero help this year, and who knows where that first or second round pick end up being in 2020. One last rumor, and I can't believe we keep doing it. Was the Amari Cooper trade not worth it? Stop it. Of course it was. This once again becomes fake news. Looking at you, blogging the boys, because people keep writing this article of, well, maybe the Cowboys gave up too much, and I get it. You're kind of playing devil's advocate about, oh, well, hey, you could have drafted a good defensive lineman in round 1 and a good receiver in round 2. Here's the thing. Cooper's impact resulted in the Cowboys making the playoffs. That's at least 10 draft picks. That alone makes it worthwhile. And if one individual player was enough to move 10 slots in the first round of the NFL draft, that means that player was worth a first round pick. And oh, by the way, sure, you can draft a receiver round 1 or round 2. You might end up with, John Ross or John Baldwin. It's no guaranteed thing. So yeah, it's a no-brainer for me, unless I guess you really wanted Jason Garrett fired, in which case Cooper trade probably stayed in there in the end. But for me, it's a no-brainer. You simply take the trade for Amari Cooper. I was worried it was going to be too high of a draft pick. It ended up not being all that high. In the end, it was a very good move by the Dallas Cowboys. Folks, don't forget you can watch Chat Sports content during March Madness on the My TV Choice TV right on your big screen television. Go download the app now at mytvchoice.com, available on iPhone and Android. Hey Cowboys fans, thanks for watching the Cowboys Report. If you haven't already, click right here to subscribe to our channel for all the best Cowboys coverage on the internet. That's news, rumors, highlights, mailbags, film studies, and a whole lot more. And I'm making your lives a little bit easier as well with the next Cowboys Report video right here.